Hello, my name's Daniel White, also known as Dansky. I'm a designer and instructor with Envato Tuts Plus, and welcome to this advanced Adobe Illustrator course. We're going to be creating a variety of different graphics using a range of different tools and techniques. And there's a good mix of different design styles in here, so hopefully you enjoy it and learn something new. For those who don't know me, I've been working as a creative professional since 2006, working in roles that cover logo design, graphic design, and web/UI design. About 7 to 8 years ago, I started teaching everything I know on YouTube, and the rest is history. Also, before we get started, Envato also have a platform called Envato Elements, where you can download millions of creative assets, all with a commercial license for as little as $16.50 a month. And for that price, you get access to absolutely everything. So if you're interested, check out the link below. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's boot up Illustrator and get started. Okay, so we're now in Illustrator. First things first, let's go to the bottom of the toolbar and make sure we have the advanced tool set enabled. This will give us access to many more tools that we'll be using throughout the course. And over here, I have my property inspector, my layers panel, and I've also docked swatches, gradient, appearance, and 3D and materials on the right-hand side. And you can find all of these panels and many more under the window menu. So we're going to be creating a character called Ori from a video game. It's a fantastic game and he's an excellent character, very cute. So let's start by creating a new document. I'm going to name this document Ori, and the width is 1920 by 1080 pixels, that's fine. RGB color for the color mode, and 72 ppi is fine as well. Click create. And then what I'm going to do is start by going over here and I'm selecting the polygon tool. Now, if you don't see this, you may see the rectangle tool or ellipse tool instead. We're going to use the polygon tool, click anywhere, and you can now create a shape. So 3 sides would be a triangle, 6 a hexagon. I'm going to go with 5, which is a pentagon. Let's scale this up holding shift. And I'll rotate this 180 degrees, also holding shift. Now press A for the direct selection tool, and these inner control points will round off the corners all equally. So let's round them off a bit, but then I'm actually going to select 4 of these points, these top ones here, and with them selected, round them off even more. In fact, you can round them off to the max and it will turn red, indicating that you cannot round it off any further. So I'll do that, and I've still got a nice little chin for the character there as well. So this is a good way to create slightly less common shapes. But now he needs a set of eyes, always good for a character. So there's a few different ways to do this. We could go for the rectangle tool. We could create a square holding shift, rotate this 45 degrees, and then press A to select both of these, drag it down, and there we go. We've got an eye, that's one way. Another way we could do this is we could use the ellipse tool, click and drag to draw a circle, use the direct selection tool to delete the bottom half. And in fact, what we can do now is actually go and use the scissor tool. And you could make a cut, say here, if I want my eyes to be slightly taller. So we've made 2 cuts, use the direct selection tool to remove the bottom, and then hold Alt or Option and drag to duplicate this. Now if I hold Shift, it will duplicate it directly below it. Rotate this around, move it up, and you'll see I've now got some slightly deeper eyes than this one up here. And I think I'll go with that actually. Now it's always worth zooming in nice and close, just to make sure that this does definitely line up. And we can go into outline mode, which is Command or Control Y if you're having any trouble lining it up. And you can see I've got a stray anchor point here. This is causing a lot of problems. Maybe on the other side, let's go and have a look. No, it's not a stray, but it's slightly out of line. So I think I must have cut it slightly wonky, but that's fine. What we can do is just grab those end anchor points and just connect those up. You can see they snap, no problem whatsoever. And there we go, we've completed the shape. So we can drag over both of these endpoints with the direct selection tool, go to Path and Join. And the shortcut for that is Command or Control J. and it joins this end as well. So we can come back out of outline mode now. And you can see we have a much deeper eye than we did earlier. Something else we can also do is we could actually draw this here. Get the rectangle tool, drag over the bottom half. Select both of these shapes and then use the Pathfinder tool here, minus front, to make a cut. You can then use the direct selection tool to drag over that bottom part, press delete on the keyboard, and you've got the same thing. This is probably a better way to have done it because it's now got that precise straight cut, whereas before with the scissor tool, I cut it slightly wonky. But nobody's going to know about it except for me and you, so it's absolutely fine. There we go. So let's move this eye. I'm going to go with this one into position, rotate this holding shift. I think I'll rotate this 45 degrees. That looks pretty good. Maybe scale it down a little bit. And then duplicate this holding Alt or Option and dragging. And then flip this horizontally here. Now, if I select everything and just make sure that we have no fill, and I'm going to thicken up that stroke a little bit as well. We'll go for something like 20 points, looks good. And if I select both of the eyeballs now, press A again, I can round off these corners. So we're going to go for a nice curvy character. We're not going to have any kind of hard edges. There we go. Very cool. Let's move them down a pinch. And I'm also going to give him a nose. So let's go and select the polygon tool again, click anywhere, type 3 for the number of sides. And let's go and put his nose over here, kind of where you'd expect to find a nose. Now, the stroke is a bit thick here, so I am going to reduce this. We'll go for half, so 10, and I'm going to round off those corners with the direct selection tool. So this is something I will do a little bit throughout the lesson here, is actually adjust the stroke. So we have most things will be 20 points, but then we'll have some things that are a bit thinner, and you get this nice juxtaposition between thicker and thinner strokes, which is quite a cool look, personally. Okay, let's move the nose down a pinch. Looks kind of like an alien crossed with an owl at the moment, but let's see if we can fix that. So let's grab the pen tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to give him some of his very iconic Ori ears. So you can see here it wants to hover along this path. If you don't have your smart guides on, go to View and down to Smart Guides. They are very, very handy. So I can click here, move all the way out here, and then click and drag again. There we go. Now it wants to continue this line. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on this point, and it will cut it and let me follow up with a straight line. And then we can go down here somewhere. You can see it snaps to the character's head, and then we can just drag out the other parts of the ear. And again, it wants to carry that line on. What I can do is press Escape, and then it will just deselect that entirely. Now again, let's use the direct selection tool just to round off this one corner, just a little bit. And if I select this, I can press I for the eyedropper tool, and I can sample this stroke I've already created, and it will copy the properties of that over. Now I'm actually going to make this ear a bit bigger. I think I've made it a pinch too small. And then I can use the direct selection tool to go in and just tweak the positioning of everything. You can see here the shape builder tool being a little bit too sensitive. So it just needs to calm down a bit. We can go and adjust that curve like so. Okay, there we go. Much better. Let's duplicate the ear to the other side, holding Alt or Option. And then bring this back in. We can use the arrow keys to nudge it in if you like. And then he's got another couple of ears up here. Yeah, he's got like 4 ears, this character. Or at least I think there is. So what we could do is we could just grab these, rotate them 45 degrees and scale them up. Now I'm actually not holding Shift, I'm holding Alt or Option here to scale from the center. And this allows me to distort these a little bit. And that is absolutely fine. Let's just rotate this here. There we go. First secondary ear done. And let's drag this over with Alt or Option. So there's a lot of duplicating here. And there we go. Now this character is very symmetrical, and there is actually a mirror mode up here. If you go to Object and Repeat, you can design in mirror mode, but you know, I guess I'm old fashioned. I like doing it the old way. I like just kind of drawing bits and then copying things over, and yeah, so this is how I like to do it. But you can use mirror mode if that's your thing. Okay, let's move these down a little bit more. There we go. Fantastic. Now I think you need some eyes, or at least eyeballs. So let's go and add an ellipse with the ellipse tool, like this. And then we'll swap that fill and stroke. Squish them down a bit. There we go. There we go. We can see a little bit of personality now. We've got some eyes. Fantastic. Oh, so cute. Right. Next, what we're going to do is drag over these top two ears here and the head, and then use the Shape Builder tool to combine them together. Now, if you don't see the Shape Builder tool, it's under the Live Paint Bucket tool. And you can just click and drag through and combine these into a single shape. Now, conversely, you can hold down Alt or Option and drag through and it will knock them out of a shape as well. So this tool, as you can imagine, is very useful. Now we've got some quite hard edges here. So what I'm going to do with this shape selected, this new head and ear combo shape, is press A again, and I get these same control points that I can select, and I can just round off these corners slightly as well. There we go. So this is starting to come together quite nicely. And now I'm actually going to go and select the bigger part of the eyes, swap the fill and the stroke, and then make the eyeballs themselves white. This is what we're going to be doing for the final design, so we may as well change this now. And I'm actually going to give him some eyebrows now as well. So let's go over here, zoom in nice and close, select the pen tool, and we're going to draw something like this that follows the same shape as the eyes. And let's go and sample the same properties from the nose. I think we'll go for something like this as well. And actually, I'm just going to just round off this corner. There we go. So you can see I can use this technique to just kind of hug the eyes. And I think let's go and select stroke. And down here, we've got the stroke profile. So we can try some of these presets and see if they work. I don't know if they're going to work for this, and they're just a little bit too sharp. Worth a go anyway, but let's thicken up the stroke now. And what I'm going to do is zoom in and select the width tool. This tool is absolutely awesome. So I'm going to click on this central point here and define the width. And then I can go to either end and I can slim this down. There we go. So I'm not going to go all the way so the ends become really sharp, just so they taper off nicely like this. And then from the stroke panel, I can round off the ends by changing the cap type to round. And of course I can grab the direct selection tool and just fine tune this and adjust those curves so they kind of follow around the shape of the eye nicely. That's looking pretty good. Let's duplicate this over with Alt or Option and dragging. There we go, those smart guides nicely line that up. That's turned out rather well. I'm happy with that. Now we could actually try and do this up here as well. We may as well try and reuse these pieces we've created rather than making them from scratch. Don't know if this is going to work. Nah, the angle's just a little bit too acute, so we're going to have to go and make them ourselves. So let's just go and draw this exactly the same as we did before. There we go, that looks good to me. I think it was 15 points on the weight. We've got that awfully sharp corner, which we can round off with the direct selection tool. Something like this. And then using the width tool, let's zoom in nice and close. We'll add a point here. That does make that a bit sharp there. That's going to be a tricky one. So let's try and pull these back a little bit. And give it just a little bit more of a curve. Okay, I've got a way around this. I've got a plan. It's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add the point here. So rather than trying to add it in this crease here where the fold is, I'm actually going to add it out here. Then I can thin this down. Thin it down. And there we go. Let's just go and adjust that curve a little bit. Now you can see it's not totally smooth here. Let's try another tool that I absolutely love. This tool is a lifesaver. It's called the Smooth tool, and it's located under the Shaper tool or the Pencil tool. And you could drag over here. And sometimes this helps just smooth out some wonky curves. Sometimes it takes a little bit of trial and error. Something like that's not too bad. Let's zoom out and have a look. No, I'm okay with that. I could spend a bit longer working on that, but that's good enough for me. Let's drag that over again, flip it horizontally, and then shuffle that in shape. In place. There we go. So there we go. We've got the character created for the most part. I think I might just move those eyes closer together ever so slightly. There we go, looking pretty good. Okay, on to the next step. Let's give him some color. But first of all, we need to combine all of these shapes together, because if we go into outline mode, which is Command or Control Y, he looks like this currently. So let's drag over everything, go to Object, Expand Appearance, and then Object and Expand. Leave Fill and Stroke selected, and you can see it now looks like this. So we can't change those stroke widths anymore. That's all kind of finalized. We've expanded it, but there is a lot more we can do. So first of all, I'm going to select both of the eyes, or the eyeballs, I should say. Go to Edit and Cut. These are now copied to the clipboard. I can select all of the black that's left, and from the Pathfinder panel, unite this into a single shape. If I go back into outline mode, this is what it does. So you can see it combines all of those pieces that overlap into a single shape. Now we've got a lot of pieces here that aren't actually connected. This will cause us a problem. So we need to go to Object, Compound Path, and select Make. So even though we've got lots of separate pieces now, Illustrator will treat them as a single shape. So let's go and paste our eyes back in, paste in place. And we'll also need to make these a compound path as well. So there we go, fantastic. Now let's select our character that is all one complete shape. And then underneath the Shape Builder tool, we have the Live Paint Bucket tool. Now I could click and start adding colors, but of course we don't want Ori to be completely black. We want to give him some color. So let's go to the swatches panel. And I think I'm going to define 2 colors. So we'll go with a purple here. We'll check global. Checking global means that if I update this swatch at any point, it will update every instance of it throughout the entire document. So as you can imagine, it's very, very helpful. And I think we'll go for another color here. It doesn't matter what color it is, because I'm going to change it anyway. We're going to go for a super, super light purpley pink color, like this. And then we'll change this one as well. We'll try this and see how we get on. But as I say, we can always change them. So that's absolutely fine. Cool. I've got 2 swatches. And what I'm going to do is select the Live Paint Bucket tool, click on one of those swatches, and then just start painting in some color. There we go. Fantastic. All done. Not quite. Now, I don't want it to actually be like this, but by painting in that color, I can now go to Object and Expand it all over again. And then if I go to Object and Ungroup, and I just repeat that shortcut a few times, I've now got lots of individual pieces that I can go and apply properties to individually, which is nice. So I could select the inner part of the nose here, for example, and I can make that white. Oh no, have I got rid of the ear? Quick, edit, undo. There we go. Put it back. Let's make the nose white again. There we go. I've lost my trail of thought now. Where was I? Yes, adding color. So now these are all individual shapes. What I can do is I can actually go and add a gradient. So let's just add a default black to white gradient here. And from the gradient panel, I can now click on this black swatch and I can actually double click it and I can pick one of my global swatches. So I could go with this darker one. We've got the lighter one here. I think I'll try the lighter one for now and we'll see how that looks. I can select this ear as well, press I, which is the shortcut for the eyedropper tool, click over here, and I can adjust the angle. So I could rotate this around. It's quite difficult to see this one. Ooh. It's quite difficult to see this one. So if I go back to the swatches panel, this is where you'll see the benefits of global swatches, because I can just change the color really easily. So it's a little bit too light before. So now I can just go and fine tune this color until I get something I'm happy with. Something like this, which looks cool. Much easier to see. And I'm going to add this same thing to the head as well. So I'm just using that eyedropper tool to sample the gradient, and then I can go into the gradient panel and adjust the rotation. There we go. Now I want a bit less of his face to be purple, so I can adjust this midpoint here and drag that down. Something like this. Or you can use this to quickly flip the gradient. Ooh, I might have it the other way actually. I think that looks quite cool as well. I like that. Yeah, that definitely looks a lot better. So we'll go with that one. So there we go. We've pretty much got the character finished. What I'm going to do now is go and grab the rectangle tool. We'll draw a rectangle that covers the entire artboard. Let's drag this down. And we'll send that to the back. So you can right click and go arrange, center back. And this has a gradient, which is quite nice actually. I do like that. So what we could do is we could change the white for the darker purple. And we could even try a radial gradient, something like this. Again, you can swap that around if you like. And now we've got our character and our background and we're pretty much done. So I could select the background now. I can go to Object, Lock and Selection. And as I say, I can go back into these swatches and go and tweak the colors a little bit more. If I wanted to add a little bit more vibrancy like this to it, I can go back in here. And yeah, once everything's done, it's probably worth just dragging over everything. Going to Object and Group, we can adjust the size of our character holding Shift. And we can even snap him directly in the center. And there we go, we're done. We've created Ori from the video game. Okay, so I've created the same 1920 by 1080 artboard again. And for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by selecting the rectangle tool. And we're going to create a two-dimensional icon. So let's drag and draw a square. Get rid of the fill. And then swap the stroke around. So we just have that black fill like so. And I'm actually just going to pick a color for now. In fact, I'm going to pick some random colors. It just helps when creating the shape. So let's hold Alt or Option and drag this out. And use the direct selection tool to select this top right anchor point and hit delete. We'll give this another random shape with a nice bit of contrast. Drag this in like so. And then what I'm going to do is select the other shape, drag this up, holding Alt or Option. Again, we'll make it a wildly different color. Rotate, holding Shift. And we'll just scale this down and move it down like so. We'll try and get this to line up. Let's zoom in nice and close. There we go. Now we can actually use the direct selection tool to move this top anchor point down. Or actually, maybe I'll keep it up there. I think I'll keep it there, but we could round it off. So we can click and drag to round off that corner. In fact, I can double click on this anchor point and round it off by exactly 40 pixels. Because I'm going to go to this corner here and do the same thing. So we get a nice bit of consistency, changing the radius and making it equal every time. Now you can see here that some of this does extend beyond the bounds of the shape. They're overlapping. It's not ideal. So let's drag over everything and grab the shape builder tool. Hold Alt or Option and just drag over to trim off that excess. That looks pretty good to me. And now what I'm going to do is go and select the rectangle tool. So you can see we're starting to create an envelope. And inside there's going to be some paper. This is going to be an email, an icon for email. So we'll do something like this. Again, let's give that a different color. We'll go with a gray. We'll drag this down nice and low and then just round off only these top two corners. In fact, we could round them off by 40 again. Let's be nice and consistent here. And I can select the green and the gray, hold Shift and use the up arrow key to nudge this out. And then with the shape builder tool, I can hold Alt or Option and just trim off that excess there. So if I go into outline mode, which is Command or Control Y, it looks something like this. Let's just break it apart and check we haven't got any stray anchor points. So we have a nice clean shape. All looks good to me. Let's put it back. And then what we can do is use Shift and the down arrow key to nudge this into exactly the same position. So there we go, that's the main shape done. Now we need to go and pick some colors. So I'm going to double click a couple of colors and just make them global swatches for now. We'll change them later on. And let's go and apply a default black to white gradient. And then start applying these swatches that we've created to the design. So I could select other colors and just sample that gradient and then adjust the angle here. There we go, something like this. And we can do the same for the piece behind. Now we have three separate pieces here. That will be a problem because it will apply the gradient to all three of them and I want them to be treated the same. So if we go up to Object, down to Compound Path and select Make, even though they're separate, Illustrator will treat them as one shape now. There we go, that looks pretty good. I might just bring this over a bit so the lighter color is a bit more dominant there. And we also need a color for the paper. So let's go for a really, really light gray. We'll make that global. Let's just pop all of our swatches together. So they're all nicely packed together. And now we can go and tinker with the color. So I'm going to make this first one really light. Ooh, that is a lovely color. Ooh, yes. Okay. I like that. And then we want our darker one to be darker, of course. So a little bit of tinkering. Bit more blue. There we go. That looks pretty smart. I do like that. Now what I will do is try and make the icon a little bit shallower. It's a bit too deep. So with the direct selection tool, let's select all of those bottom anchor points and just try and nudge this up. Go into outline mode, which is Command or Control Y. This is where things can go a bit wrong because you can kind of mess up some of the angles. You can see I've done that a little bit already. So let's just try and see what we can get away with. Okay, so I'm just going to see if I can make the icon a little bit less deep by dragging over these top parts with the direct selection tool and using the down arrow key. I don't know how this is going to work. Paste that back in. Might be able to get away with it. So ideally I would have made the size, got that exactly correct at the start. What I could try and do is draw a line here and we'll just make a nice red line. And I can then bring this here in line with that red one. So that's pretty helpful. Like, it's not ideal, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. And so it's good to know how to kind of use these workarounds. So you can see I've got this little weird bit here, but remember we have the almighty shape builder tool, Alter Option Drag, boom, we've trimmed it off. So that's cool. And there we go, that icon is just a little bit shallower now. It was a bit too tall before. Now I think what I'm actually going to do is I am going to add a background behind this, and we'll make this slightly darker gray actually. I'm going to go with a darker color. And then we'll make the paper completely white. In fact, I'm probably better off just changing the swatch here. So let's go and do that. We'll just drag all these sliders up to 255. And there we go. We have our completed 2D icon for email. So let's select everything minus the background and go to Object and Group. We can now move this around as a single object. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to turn this into a 3D icon. This is going to be incredibly useful because a lot of people like myself spent a lot of time making 2D icons, and now we can actually use this new 3D panel over here, and we can very easily turn 2D into 3D, which gives us quite literally another dimension to our design work. No pun intended. So let's move that out of the way. We've got the 2D icon. So let's go ahead and duplicate this icon with Alter Option, Shift and dragging. And then I'm going to go to Object and Ungroup. So I've got lots of different pieces. And now I'm going to drag over everything. And from the Pathfinder panel, I'm going to select this option here in the bottom left corner. Now it's grouped them back together again. So let's ungroup again. And now I've got individual pieces that I can pull apart. So I've got one here. Let's just cut that, delete what's under. You can see we've got a little bit of something weird going on here. Not sure what that is. So let's just drag over it, remove any kind of stray points. We'll paste this other piece back in. So we're just cleaning up the icon. Now this is good to do anyway, but we desperately need to do it if we're going to be doing 3D, because otherwise it's going to cause all sorts of problems. You can see here, we've got like a double line going on. Don't know what that is. So let's just create a shape over it. And I'm just going to use the shape builder tool to just trim all of that off. So we have a nice straight cut. And actually, I'm going to select the pen tool and just fill in this bit here. And if I just move all of these pieces out, let's combine that into a single shape. Just go through, tidy up any pieces like this, any little oddities. And we can go into outline mode, which is Command or Control Y. Much easier to select points this way. You can see we've got lots of weird points overlapping. This just happens with the shape builder tool sometimes. There we go. Let's just remove those. So there we go. We have a nice, precise shape. The only problem is I've lost my my letter, my piece of paper. So let's just grab that from over there and bring it to the front. And then I can bring this back down holding Shift. So there we go. I've tidied that up quite a bit. We've got all these individual pieces now. So let's start making it 3D. So I've got the 3D panel over here. Let's go to Extrude. Now I can choose a preset here, or I can just freely rotate the angle around. I'm actually going to go with, let's try Isometric Top. I love this preset. It's really, really cool. We'll set the height to, go with, yeah, we'll do 25 pixels. And there we go. Now I could go through and do the same thing again. Extrude, Isometric, 25. It's not too much hard work, but if you've got lots of things that you want to do this to, it's going to get very, very laborious. So what we can do is we can select a couple of shapes, one that has the 3D effect and one that doesn't. And from the layers panel, I can expand this down. and clearly identify that this is the 3D shape here. Hold down Alt or Option, click on this circle and drag to the other circle. This will copy that 3D effect from one object to another. So we can do the same thing to the paper that's gone invisible over here. And you can see it's copied the color as well. So we'll just need to set that back to white, but we've got the 3D properties as well. So now it's just a case of rebuilding this as a 3D icon. And some objects will need to go behind or in front of others. So let's just piece this back together as best we can. And then we've got the paper as well. Let's move this down. There we go. As you can see, we've got some strays left over. And sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't, but it's, I guess it's kind of good they're happening now during the course because they are a real thing. They're a real problem for me in my professional creative work, and you know, it's good to know how to deal with them. Okay, so we've not got these edges lined up perfectly here. So let's try and line these up. So what I might do here, a little trick, I've got this bit poking out the bottom. I might actually just make the height ever so slightly less because it's behind anyway, so you're not going to see this. And I can paste back in the paper. We'll make that height less anyway. And there you go. You can see the paper gets clipped by this part of the envelope. So what we can do now is we've kind of got a bit of a 3D envelope going on. Remember to hop into outline mode if you get stuck. It looks like this, which is nothing like what we're seeing. It's a lifesaver, honestly. It gets really confusing working like this. But from the 3D panel, we can go and add a bevel effect. We'll round this off. We'll go with something like 10 for the width and height. It just gives us a nice subtle bevel. You could go for 20, a bit more. Actually, I think we'll go right in the middle. We'll go for 15 and 15. And again, let's do that here. So we'll go round bevel, 15, 15. Round bevel, 15, 15. And it just rounds off those corners so they don't look too perfectly sharp. You can see what I mean about outline mode, making it much easier to select the right piece. And then what we can do is select one piece and let's turn on ray tracing. I'm going to work with low, but you can choose high as well if you've got a more powerful PC. Remember and apply to all. And this will turn on real-time ray tracing. So we get much more realistic lighting for the 3D icon, which I think looks pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an actual outer kind of square for the icon. Let's make this white. And again, we're going to go 3D extrude. We're going to add a bevel as well. Same round. I think we'll go for 25 on this one because it's a slightly bigger shape. And the angle is going to be isometric top. And I'm going to bevel both sides as well. And I'm going to round off those corners so we get like a nice round icon. There we go. And then send this to the back. There we go. So it's sitting underneath the envelope icon. And what we can do now is we can select all of these pieces and we could go and play around with the lighting. There's lots of different presets that enable you to control the lighting. But I quite like how this is looking here. But you do have lots of sliders if you want to kind of adjust anything like that and change how it looks. One thing we do need to add is a shadow. So let's go and select the bottom part of the icon, the white bit. And you can add the shadow down here. And you can add it behind or below. Depending on how you create it, this will work differently. And now you can see how that adjustment of rotation and height and things really does make a difference. So that doesn't look great. So we could bring it back in. We could actually even increase the distance of the shadow from the object to make it further away. And if you get your shadow cut off by the bounds, just bump this up as well. So let's set that rotation to, we'll go for 0. And then set the height at 0 as well. And we get a shadow directly under. However, I don't like how it's changing the actual icon itself. So I did experiment with this, but I'm actually going to turn shadow off and I'm going to make my own shadow, which I think is going to look a bit better. Although now I've broken the lighting. So let's go back to that standard preset. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Okay. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to create a shape with the pen tool. I'm doing this clearly very quickly. It's not perfectly isometric, but it won't matter too much because what we can do is move this down and we'll give this the color. We'll just go with black for now. Go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Just bump this up a little bit. Send it to the back. And you can, of course, spend more time making your shadow a bit more precise. But something like this looks good to me. You can see we do have these weird hard edges. If you get those, go to Effect, Document Raster Effects Settings, and just increase this amount here. 720 is the maximum. So let's see how 300 looks. Not enough. Okay, we're going to go full 720. Let's just have a look. Hopefully this clears those hard edges. No, it doesn't. Okay, well, if it doesn't clear them, you just have to reduce the size. That's unfortunately just one of the limitations of the Gaussian blur. You can see if I reduce the size here, it goes away. So what I tend to do is I make my icons a little bit smaller. I didn't want to make the whole thing smaller then. Yeah, so I would make them a bit smaller, then go to Object, Expand, and then make them really big. Okay, so let's just bring that shadow down a pinch. I'll change the blend mode to multiply. And let's go and add a nice blue background behind. We'll send it to the back and sample that lovely gradient we created earlier. Oof. Sorry, 2D icon, we'll move you out of the way. And let's position all of this in the center. And I think I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. And then maybe bring down the depth as well. And there we go, that looks pretty good. And as I said, you can even spend a little bit longer just fine tuning it until you get something that you're happy with. And there we go, we've created a 2D and 3D icon in Illustrator. Okay, for this next one, we're going to look at creating vector graphics and using depth of field. This is really cool. And we're going to start by creating a pencil graphic. So let's select the rectangle tool and we'll just draw out this shape here. And we'll just pick a fill color for this. So we'll go with a yellow, something like this. And then let's hold Alt or Option and drag to duplicate it. Now you can repeat that last action with Command or Control D and it repeats the duplication. And we're just going to pick a slightly more orangey color here. And we'll go even more so for that last one. So there we go. We have a nice graduation between different oranges. There we go. Cool. What I'm going to do now is then zoom in on the bottom of the pencil. Grab the pencil and go click, click. And I think we'll go here because it lines up. Click, click, and click. Like this. Let's drag this over with Alt or Option, flip it round, line it up. And then we just need to fill in one here as well. Just a little dot to dot. Nice and easy. So we've got 3 separate shapes. Let's drag these down a pinch a little bit further. And now what I'm going to do is draw the nib of the pencil. You can see these smart guides are very, very useful. Make this a nice dark color, as nibs usually are. I think that angle's pretty good. And I might just round off the end just ever so slightly. That's using the direct selection tool. Now let's give this part of the pencil some color. So we'll go with something like this. And again, they're just going to gradually get darker as we move from left to right. There we go. And what I can do actually is zoom in on this bottom part and just use the direct selection tool to just move these in a little bit. So they're kind of all converging on the same point a bit more. And then snap that back on top. There we go. Excellent. Right, so we have a pencil. We could create the top part of the pencil, but we don't need to. I think what I will do there is I'll just round off this top left one. We'll go with 3, and then over here with the direct selection tool, round that off by 3 as well. I could put a rubber on the top, but we're not going to see it in the final version anyway. So we have a pencil. I'm very proud of the pencil. Let's go to Window and down to Symbols. Now, if you want 3 different pencils, different colors, completely skip this step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this in here and add this pencil as a symbol. And what it means is if I create multiple versions of this, I can double click to go back inside that symbol. Let's check this. And I can make some changes. And when I come outside of the symbol, it applies those changes to every instance of that symbol. So it's kind of like global swatches, but for objects. So very useful. And I've got this as a symbol now. So I can rotate this. Let's not go for 45. Let's go a little bit less. So we'll do something like this. And then grab the rectangle tool, click anywhere and create a rectangle. I think I'll go for 800 by 800. We'll make sure that this is in the middle. Send it to the back. And then let's go and give this a color. Maybe a little bit lighter. There we go. So this is going to be how I'm going to frame this piece. So let's make the pencil much, much bigger now. And we will be cropping to this box in the end. So let's adjust the angle. We'll have the pencil coming in top right, pointing at the bottom left. So something like that looks pretty good, I think. And then what I can do is just go to Edit, Copy, Edit, and Paste in place, and move this out. We'll keep the angle, but scale it down. This one's going to be a little bit further away. And then we'll drag this over here, holding Alt or Option to duplicate, and make this one bigger. This one's going to be a little bit closer. And both of these two are going to be out of focus as well. So this will look pretty cool. But there's one thing I should have done first, and that's adding a shadow. So let's go and grab the ellipse tool. We'll just drag out some sort of shadow-esque shape. From the swatches panel, add the default black to white gradient. And we'll flip this around from the gradient panel. Move this into position. Now, if we change the blend mode to multiply, all of the lighter areas of the gradient will blend into the background. So you can see the white blends in. We need to make sure it's behind the pencils. This sort of hard style of shadow looks kind of cool, but we're going to go one step further. We could make this a radial gradient, and we could bring this down like so. This is another good way to do shadows, although it is kind of coming from a central point. So it doesn't really make sense because I want the light to be coming from the left-hand side. So let's go back to this. And what I will do is I'll just apply a Gaussian blur. We'll go with, let's say 5. I think that looks quite good. And you can control the gradient here. So we could bring this in a little bit. And you've got that Gaussian blur that you can adjust over on the right-hand side or from the appearance panel. So all of this is fully editable. So there we go. We have a shadow. And now we've got one shadow. Let's duplicate this up here. Scale it down. You can see why I was going to do this before now. But it will be out of focus anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So let's give that one a shadow. Boom, there we go. Shadows for everyone. And we'll group these together with their respective shadow. And then apply a Gaussian blur to all of them. So this one is close to the camera, so it's going to be really blurry. So we'll go with 30, a bit too much maybe. 25. And then this one at the back. Let's see how, we'll start at 10. How does that look? Oh, that looks all right. I quite like that. Let's go for 10. Excellent. Now I'm actually going to select the background, and I think I might just make this a little bit less saturated, something like this. And this is something I do like to do when I'm working on something that uses Gaussian blur, is I will apply a tiny bit of blur even to the objects that are in focus. So let's go for 0.5. It just helps everything, especially the edges, just not look as hard and as fake. And I might bring that shadow down a pinch as well. There we go. We'll go for 50% on the shadow. Very good. Now what I'm going to do is select this rectangle and then copy this. I'm going to group absolutely everything. Make sure I paste the box that I just copied in front. And then if I drag over everything, I've now got the pencils and their background selected, and I've also got the box selected. I can go to Object, down to Clipping Mask and select Make. And you can see it crops it to that box. And there's one other thing that I quite like, which is a really cool effect. It's quite demanding, but we'll give it a go. That's just to create another rectangle. We'll pop it on top. In fact, it's probably easier to just go and make this 800 because I know the sizes. There we go. We'll pop it in the center. Set the color to black. And then go to Effect, down to Texture and Grain. Now we've got lots of different properties that you could play around with here. Well, actually not lots, you've got 2, but you've also got the grain type. We're going to be using stippled, get a bit of stippling in there. And you can control this here depending on how much you like. This is kind of very similar to noise. Click OK and you get this effect. And then you could change the blend mode to soft light is a pretty good one. It's a bit too intense there, but if we bring it down to something like 30, it just gives it this nice kind of textured effect over the top. And you'll see my shadow is actually on top here. So to go back into this, I have to move this out, double click to go inside the clipping mask group, double click to go inside again, double click to go inside that one again, and then I can either adjust the position or the size or just move it behind to the back. So let's come back out of that. Now we've corrected that, and then we can pop the grain back in front. And in fact, if I go to keep the grain, which I think I will just group absolutely everything together. So it all moves around as one piece. And there we go. We've created some vector graphics as symbols, and we've also applied a nice depth of field effect using Gaussian blur. Okay, for this one, we're going to be creating some 3D stylized lettering. So let's start by going up to the type tool, clicking anywhere and typing a font. I'm going to type the word stylus. I think I put stylush. Right, let's scale that one up holding Shift. And I'm going to pick a font. This font is Nickanely normal, and this is a free download. Let's scale this up. Now I'd like to apply the 3D effect to this, but to get it in the way that I want, I can't actually use this font as it is. I need to draw everything again using the pen tool. So let's go to Object, Lock and Selection. Zoom in nice and close. Grab the pen tool and let's pick a color. We'll go with a magenta. Very nice. And then we'll start just drawing around this shape. Now this is something that I don't actually like doing very much. I find it quite difficult, but there is a tool that I'm going to show you in a moment that is going to make this so much easier. Like it really is, even if you're not very good with the pen tool like me. So let's just go around this. So I'm just clicking and dragging, holding Alt or Option to force that cut. There we go. And you can see there, I totally botched that last curve, and I can go in and correct that with the direct selection tool. Remember to turn off smart guides if they are a bit too snappy. So we'll go in and we could fix that. So we can fix those curves. That's not too difficult, but this tool is amazing. So what I'm going to do is grab the smooth tool and just drag around, smooth, smooth, smooth. And if you double click the smooth tool as well, you can choose how smooth it is. Smooth. This is just brilliant. Smooth. I love this tool. So there you go. You'd never even know. So you can spend a bit of time smoothing it out until you get something you're happy with. Then I'm going to thicken this up. So 16 seems to be the sweet spot for that. Although I'm actually going to go a little bit thicker. We'll go for 20. And then I can select round cap to round those off. So that's one letter. Now I'm just going to take a minute to go through and do all of the other letters. And one of the important things is to make sure that you do them all individually as well. And you'll see why with the particular type of 3D effect we're doing in a minute. So I'm going to stop here for that one. Go back, cross over the T, and then that's one letter. Then I'm going to do the next letter individually. Okay, so I'm going to speed through this now. It will take a few minutes and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so there we go. I've created all of the letters. Let's select everything. Go to Edit and Cut. Object, Unlock All. I can get rid of my text and then paste this back in front. So that's looking pretty cool. Let's make sure we pop that centrally on the artboard. The next one I'm going to do is go over here and grab the ellipse tool, click and drag to draw a circle, swap the fill and the stroke. And then I'm going to give this the color. Let's go down here. It's going to be a very light gray. A0 BAC8. There we go. It's not really a gray at all actually, is it? But it's a lovely color regardless. And I'm going to duplicate this one out. And then I've got another color here as well. FA. There we go. So that's like a really, really light color. In fact, that's probably a bit too light. It's quite hard to see. So let's go for, we'll go for something a bit darker. There we go. I'll set these up as global swatches and we can always change them later on if we need to. There we go. We've got our two global swatches there. Now these two circles are going to control the width of the 3D effect. So if I move these apart, go to gradient, just apply any old gradient and then put those new global swatches onto that gradient. Make sure that the darker color is on the bottom. And then if I sample this, oops, other way around, select the other circle, sample that gradient, darker color on the bottom, and then change that to the gray. So we've got these two colors, and now I'm going to drag over them and go to Edit Copy first. Go to Blend and select Make, and it will do this. What we want to do is go to Blend Options and go Specified Steps, and we'll go for 500. We'll just enter a really high number so we get a nice smooth graduation. Now let's just paste those circles back in. We'll move those out there. We need to keep those as a backup. And I'll just create another copy of this, in fact, a few copies. And then let's see how this works. So we're going to select this one here, select our first letter, and go to Object, Blend, and go Replace Spine. And there you go. You can see we've applied the lovely gradient thing here in this blended object, and we've applied it as a letter. That looks really nice, actually. I'm really pleased with that. It's a bit thick though, so I'm gonna scale these all down. Remember, I said that the circle size does control the width, so we'll make it a little bit thinner. And you need to have all these duplicates here because, as you can see, when I go and do this, blend, replace spline, it consumes that one. Like it becomes part of it. Oh no, it's disappeared. Okay, that was a little glitch then. Yeah, you can see it consumes it, it uses it up, and it's now gone. Wonder what was happening then. So let's do that again for the T. So we'll select this, we'll select the T, blend, replace spine. Illustrator's just having a funny 5 minutes. Like it's moving around, but normally that would just disappear. There we go. I don't know why it's doing that. So this is like ammunition, so you just need to kind of duplicate these. But remember, you've got those global swatches, so if you want to change the colors, you can do. So I'm just going to go and do this one now as well. Blend, replace spine. There we go, that one worked. And I can move this to the top. And then we'll do it for the Y as well. Now I've created the Y as two separate pieces. So let's see how this works. We'll do the first one and then just move that to the front. So the T goes behind, and then we'll try the next piece as well. That didn't work, did it? Let's try that again. There we go. So it doesn't really matter too much. You could have this as one continuous stroke, or you can have it behind. I need to populate some more ammunition here. So I'm just going to go through and do this one at a time. Replace spine. Make sure you don't select make. I think that's what I did just now. I think I must have done that because it will go all kinds of weird. So we've got replace spine there. And then you can just adjust the order, the stacking, just make sure some are in front of other ones. And yes, I'm just going to finish this off and I'll see you in a moment. So there we go. That looks pretty cool. I'll just move this up out of the way. I'll keep those as a backup. Now, this looks amazing. You know, I'm really pleased with that. Actually, that's turned out really well. What I can also do there is I can go in with the direct selection tool and I can grab these circles and then I can actually adjust the size. So you select it with the direct selection tool, then change it with the main selection tool, and you can see it updates in real time. So I could make this a bit smaller, and then I could make this bottom one a bit chunkier. So you can kind of really customize this. So I could go in and just make this last bit, the little kind of tail, the flick on the end, I could make that a bit smaller. And I'm just going to move this around and adjust the position. In fact, let's make this bottom one a wee bit bigger. And there you go. So now I can drag over all of this, go to Object and Group. I can make this a bit bigger. And I could also go back in here. And remember, I've got these two global swatches. This is the really fun part. Check preview. And then you can just change the colors. And we can do all sorts. So I could go with a blue here. And then I could change this to something else. Oof, that is nice. Oh, I love that. So as you can see, yeah, you can you can really have a lot of fun with this. But I think I liked it the way it was. So we'll go back. And there we go. We've used the blend tool to create some lovely 3D style lettering. Okay, in this next one, we're going to create some really cool gradients using the mesh tool. This is a fun one, and every time I do this, I never know exactly what I'm going to get. So first of all, let's select the rectangle tool and just create a rectangle. I'm going to go with a portrait orientation. We'll put this in the middle and we'll pick a color. We'll go with a nice rich blue. And then I'm going to open up the color panel here. This helps me pick color and change color quickly. It's going to be really useful. And with this rectangle selected, I'm going to grab the mesh tool. And you can see if I go over here and add a point, with that point selected, I can apply a color and it applies that color to the surrounding area. So as you can see, this tool is really cool. So I'm going to place a couple of different points. So we've got one there. I think I'll do another one up here. I'll go one there. Go another one here. Maybe one down there. Yeah, that looks good. And let's just sort of have a play and see what we can create. So I'm going to select this first one. And maybe move this one down here. Give this a darker color. Bring this down. And you can use global swatches for this, but I'm just going to really sort of have a little bit of fun and play around with this effect because it's honestly, it's so much fun. You could bring this one closer, make it a bit darker. And if I zoom in nice and close, if you bring 2 points too close, it will just intersect and look horrible like this. But if you move them a bit further away, you can see that that edge just gets a little bit softer. So you want to find that sweet spot there of bringing them in so you have a nice defined curved edge, but not like this where they intersect and go horrible. So I think we'll work with this. This could be something pretty cool. So let's bring this one down here. Move these around a little bit. And I'm actually just going to spend a minute just tinkering with this, but you get the general idea. You can select different points with both the mesh tool, or you can use the direct selection tool to select points. You can apply colors to points. So yeah, go crazy, have fun with this one, and I'll see you in a moment. And you can use this as a really cool abstract background and make it part of anything really, a flyer, a poster, whatever you like. And just as a quick bonus tip, this is a way that it can be used to add 3D to shapes. So if I go and create an ellipse, we'll make this the same rich blue. I can then select the mesh tool, add a couple of points on here, brighten these up, select a few points up here. Nope, not multiple points, but individual points. And just go and brighten these up. And then just go and make these ones down here a bit darker. Of course, you can give these the same colors, but this can be used to create some pretty nice 3D effects. And there we go. That wraps up the course. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Thanks again to Envato Tuts Plus for having me, and to you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.